Good morning. It is Tuesday. Recap time. Last night's game was great. I really enjoyed it. Players seemed to really enjoy it. And I didn't even mind that they managed to cheat their way out of all three of the combats that I had set up. Well, no, they didn't cheat their way out of them. I had set up 3 possible combat encounters. They could possibly run into the group of young adventurers. They could possibly run into Catherine of Moord. And then there was another encounter that I'll get to later on. So, I made my random rolls to see what the situation was going to be like whenever things kicked off. They were a couple days outside of Zar, heading towards the Orc lands, and they were going to start looking for this other group of adventurers there. And through use of my situations that I had set up, I made some rolls, and it turned out that before the group spotted the other group, Catherine and the other group had an encounter. So, this group is our group, our players, are woken up in the middle of the night to the sounds of battle, howling, a fireball going off. Yeah, and they have plenty of time to go through and wake everybody up and, get ready and chat about what they're going to do and have a cup of coffee and everything else. At which point, the majority of the group, except for 2 people, head towards the sounds of combat. Our artificer and our rogue, Vincent and Jonathan, stay behind. Mainly because they're cowards, and secondly, to clear up the camp. Always good to split the party. Always good. Then they make their way through the woods, following Zig's tracking. And as they're approaching, Calic, our tiefling, flies up above and spots a wolf-like shape leaving a campsite. They make their way into the campsite, where they find one individual who looks like he's dying, and one individual who is quite badly injured. Through a series of heals, conversations, etc., they eventually stabilize the 2 of them and discover through their conversation that these are the young adventurers they were looking for. Mainly because the one that's conscious keeps hurling obscenities at Zag and referring to them as his kind, and then slagging off the rest of the adventurers for associating with his kind. Fairly straightforward giveaway. So they then decide to leave Zag, the half-orc, in the camp with the 2 orc haters, while the rest of them go hunt the wolf form that ran away, that left, the werewolf. Arthur stays behind a few more moments after the rest of them leave to continue the questioning. And in doing so, he stumbles across the information that the group's leader, Kip, had told them that they needed to try to capture this werewolf because she was wanted in the capital. The guy doesn't know why, doesn't know who she is, but he knows that his leader, Kip, told him that they needed to try to capture her. This is enough information that Arthur twigs on that somehow this werewolf is Catherine of Moore. So he barrels off into the woods to catch up to the others to tell them not to kill her. They eventually track the werewolf to the mouth of a cave where Arthur catches up to them, informs them of what's going on. Declan still shouts into the cave, "Come out or we're going to come in and kill you." They go into the cave, they advance into the darkness, they eventually do hear sounds up ahead of them, stepping their way around, and they find a woman. She has two people at her feet who look like they're bleeding out from gorging wounds from some kind of an animal. And she looks very badly beaten and burned herself. Arthur tries to speak to her, tries to find out if this is Catherine. She basically tells him to just shut up and kill her. He actually has a feat called Nimbus of Light, which makes him glow with a positive energy and makes other good creatures recognize him as good. He shows her that. She does seem to recognize it, and then says to him, you know, if you really are a good man, then kill me. And at this point, she is struggling to even stand. She is obviously badly beaten. And she struggles, but she manages to actually lift her greatsword into a combat position. Kalik tries to step forward a bit stealthily and fails. She spots him right away. And that's when they realize that it's about to become a combat. They roll initiative. They all rolled much higher than her. She actually rolled a 1. And Kalik goes first in the initiative order. And thinking very quickly, Kalik, the tiefling mystic, throws up I believe it's called telepathic barrier. It is a wall of shimmering energy that you can't pass through. He puts a wall between her and them, and basically staves off her charge. Had he not done that, she would have charged the group, and even though she was only at a couple hit points, the likelihood is she would have taken one of them down before they killed her. Now, they have enough healing in the group that I fully expected that one of them would go unconscious and be healed back before they died. That was my prediction of how the combat would go. She would hack one of them down, they would take her down, and then they would heal the person. Now, I had been getting a little bit worried about this because they kept leaving people behind. And I kept being more and more worried that they were not going to have a healer available when they met up with her. As it turns out, though, they didn't need the healer available because they put the wall up, and they basically just managed to talk to her and wait her out until she no longer had the energy to lift her weapon and finally passed out. Now, this is not standard D&D rules, but it's something that I've been using more and more to demonstrate that you're not just perfectly fine until you hit 0 hit points. When you are low on hit points, there is a chance that you're not going to be able to do much. There's a chance that you may just pass out from further blood loss. And that's eventually what she did. They then dropped the wall and got around finally to checking the 2 people that were dying at her feet during this confrontation. Which I will just throw out here, they had a chance of saving both of them. I made death saving throws for them. I gave them every chance to live, and the players did basically stand there and watch them die. One of them was savable. One of them did stabilize on their death saving throws and was sat at 0 hit points. So they managed to save one of them. The other one died. And it turned out that the one that died in the cave was Kip Ergen. The one that I mentioned yesterday is in the video. That was the son of the great blood baller that Declan knew, that was quite influential. So yeah, I mean, he died in the cave. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on in the cave, back at the camp, Zag is with the 2 other adventurers. One of whom is unconscious, one of whom is not. The one who is conscious basically just is glaring at him angrily. Zag stopped paying attention for a minute, and the guy cast a sleep spell on him. And Zag takes a nap. Now, at this point, I actually did roll to see if this guy, even after Zag was one of the ones who saved him, even after Zag was one of the ones who saved his friend, he still hated orcs. And I made a roll to see if he would simply slit Zag's throat in his sleep. Luckily for Zag, he did not do so. He instead tied him up, bashed his drum through to prevent him playing any music or anything when he woke up, took his crossbow, and left. Took his friend with him and went. The rest of the group gets back to the camp, discovers that Zag let them escape, and finally a couple of them decide to go hunting the ones that got away. As they track through the woods, they eventually discover the body of one of the 2 with a knife in his back, and the other one is gone. Now, what I'll reveal here that my players will probably find out, but that their characters do not know, is that what happened was the one who was badly injured actually had a quite powerful magic item. He had a ring of teleportation. The other one, the one who cast the sleep spell, had been the one who identified that item, so he knew that the guy had it. He also knew that, as weak as he was, he probably would not be able to control the teleport as needed. And he didn't think there was time to convince the guy otherwise. So in order to save himself, he stabbed his friend in the back, took the ring, and went. Now, I have not actually made the rolls yet, but this world does have rules for difficult teleportation. So while he did leave here, I haven't actually rolled to see if he ended up where he wanted to be, or if he ended up somewhere else. I'll do that at some point through the day, and I'll have that information ready for next week. It never came up in the session, so... yeah, and then they started trying to locate the two that they had left back at the original camp, who, neither of them being at all comfortable in the woods, one of them growing up in the city and the other one growing up under a gnomish mountain, promptly packed up the camp and then set off in a direction and got lost. And as we left the game, the rest of the group is now looking for the two that wandered off. Yeah, so there we are. Really good session, lots of fun. The other combat that I did not mention was that in the cave where they found Catherine, there actually was another tunnel that led deeper in, and they actually could have found another encounter there, and if they had beaten it, some nice magic loot. Oh well, they didn't get that. They did get the, they took Kip's bow, which is a magic item. They have a couple magic daggers. They've got, they have a few little things, but they could have had more. And they didn't look around. They came in, they did that, they got straight out. Which, I mean, is a fair enough strategy. So, I'm at work now. I'm going to leave it there. Overall, great game. Looking forward to next week. Have a great day. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.